It's about to be. Let's do it. It's about to be. It's about to be. Let's do it. I know the money, but that's strong. And the hate, but that's long. But the crew, man, we stay on it. Yeah, the crew, but we stay on it. Like a light, I flip the switch. Like a light, I flip the switch. We about to hit. Yo, get it running, I'm about to hit. And then I hit it, running, go all day. Watch me, did I do okay? Listen, I don't really care about the grip. Yo, me and my team about to dip. Game over, little flip. Shut it down, man, go and sit. Headed every day like Big Crit. Yo, give it to me now, that's it. And then I told my girl, go look at this. And then I told my...
After much delay by Greg Richard, we can finally start right now. I mean, Greg Richard and Nick Given, I mean, you've been all over the place this morning. We're trying to get started. I got Andy over here to my left. We're ready to go, and you're trying to hold me back. You're trying to hold me back, and I don't understand.
I'm just
glad. I feel like a caged animal right now, but go ahead.
I'd like to know who the first in the building was this morning, Brad.
I was the first in the building. I was the first one here. My Impala was going 90 miles per hour on 71 South today. I was flying by everybody out there.
Who was the last one to plug their microphone in today?
Who was the last person to get here and who was late? And that's Andy Mack Williams.
Oh, okay, yeah.
First time that Andy Mack has ever been late in his life was this morning. Andy, you were 15 minutes late.
You know, there was some sort of major event on Queen City Avenue. That area is an area I try to avoid at all costs.
But you have to.
Because of the Department of Transportation and their many detours, I had to go that way. And I'm on the way to the airport. I have an important trip to go on. And, you know, frankly, the fans of this podcast, and there are millions of them out there.
Millions. Millions of trillions. Trillions.
Not really interested in our petty interfighting and production problems. They're here for solid and comprehensive, authentic information on Xavier University basketball, Brad. And
we got to give that to them.
I don't mean to be negative here, but you know what happened to you on 71 is superfluous to our purpose.
That's true.
Here.
We have to deliver college basketball because that's what the people want. That's what the audience is calling for. They're calling for kicking it old school with Andy Mack. That's what they want.
We are simply disseminators of information. We are the conduit for solid and authentic information on Xavier University.
Your vocabulary always continues to amaze me. So let's go to the Musketeers, Andy.
Let's do it.
Xavier's 17-2 now, 4-2 in the Big East.
Wait a minute now, 17-3. Let's
17-3.
Be correct.
Oh, 17-3. Sorry, Andy. I forgot the last loss there. I'm glad that you can pick me up on my numbers.
Thank you.
I'm glad you can pick me up.
I have some role.
But after 2 road losses on the road, the wheels were falling off. We lost to Providence. Xavier lost to Villanova handily, and it was all going downhill, Andy. And then they come back to the Cintas Center, and they're playing pretty well.
You know, I didn't feel that way, and the Creighton game sort of underlined my correct perception of this, the 92-70 massacre of the Creighton Blue Jays. And then Xavier came back and played a surprisingly plucky and resilient St. John's team and beat them 88-82 on Wednesday at Cintas. It's life on the road in the Big East, though. The top 4 teams, Villanova, Xavier, Seton Hall, and Creighton, continue their amazing home court dominance. Those 4 teams are 45-0 collectively in their home cities and 13-0 in Big East home games. So to win on the road in this league is really a problem.
That's pretty good. No losses for those teams at home, right? No losses at all. That's staggering.
Maybe. Somewhere.
Not even one mistake along the way. That St. John's game was a little bit up and down. I think, St. John's coming in, they still have yet to win a game in the Big East. Expected Xavier to have this Johnny's blown out by the first half. That didn't happen. St. John's took the lead with about 7 minutes to go in that game on a 3-point shot, 68-65, and then Xavier went on that 15-0 run. Were you surprised at all by how close that game was late?
Now, if you look at the record, St. John's had given Seton Hall a good game in Newark, and they'd given Creighton a really strong game in Omaha. And Coach Mullen, although his team is 0-7 in the league, they like to play for him. It's sort of chuck and duck offensively. It's an NBA style. In other words, they don't run any plays, and it's all one-on-one. And players like that stuff. And they respond by playing really feisty defense. They lead the Big East in block shots, turnovers created, and then steals. And they gave Xavier problems. had great difficulty getting the ball inside, and they had that nice run before the end of the first half when Trayvon Blewett came up large. They went up 8, and I figured that it might be all over, but St. John's kept coming back, and they hit a bunch of shots, and then Xavier went on that really that was a heartening 15-0 run when Xavier went from 3 down to 12 up and sort of put the game on ice. And it was pack line defense. Najee Marshall went one-on-one against that little Shamori Pons guy. And
There's the little line. Everyone's always little. Go ahead. Everyone's always little.
He locked him up. He locked him up like a gun safe in your basement. I thought
Najee's
a great defender.
He's a very trusted defender. I mean, you're going against Shamari Pons, and obviously a game that was extremely tight, and you put a freshman guard on their best player. At least their player that's taking the most of the shots that they got.
He takes a lot of shots.
He takes a ton of them.
But, Najee was great in the Creighton game, man-on-man against Marcus Foster, who's arguably the best wing player in the Big East. And then he flips the script. Chris Mack trusts him, goes man-to-man against Pons, and Mullen did everything under the book to get the ball to Pons, and Pons certainly never refuses a shot opportunity.
And he struggled finishing in that second half. I can remember about 4 layups that he missed. He had one off of a turnover. He had about another 3 in the half court where he made a nice move. I thought Najee's length and Xavier's length inside bothered him, and he struggled finish and with his off hand as he got to the rim. But there's something to be said about St. John's. They don't have a deep bench at all, so that starting 5, it barely comes out. They play with ultra confidence. Justin Simon did a great job in transition, and the guy who everybody is talking about right now is Kareem Cantor. He has been unbelievable. I don't know what the heck is going on with this guy, but he had 22 and 11 against St. John's. He was hitting threes. He was making shots with his left hand, right hand. It didn't matter if anyone into his face. And Kareem Cantor, he plays at his pace. He doesn't allow anybody to speed him up. I mean, do you see his minutes skyrocketing, or do you see him continuing to stay around that 20-minute mark?
He's a Euro guy. As you say, he plays a rather unique style. I cannot see his minutes going up much over 25. He's a big guy. He's deceptively quick. He looks like he's a bit of a plow horse as far as speed is concerned, but he gets from point A to point B and seldom turns the ball over. And, I can see his minutes rising to 25, but that's about it. There's a limit. You don't want to totally wear this guy out. He played a lot stingier and stickier and nastier defensively in that big surge against St. John's. I think he's underrated defensively. He gobbles up defensive rebounds. He may play below the rim, but he positions himself well, and he grabs those boards, and he knows how to trigger a break too. I mean, if there's not a guard there, he's going to bring it up himself. He's not going to wait, look at the sundial and wait for a guard to show up. This guy's good.
And how about Coach Mack? Now the winningest coach ever in Xavier history, 203 wins. He passed Pete Gillen, who had 202. And Chris, I know he doesn't like many people talking about his accolades. He didn't seem like he was overly comfortable after the game when Greg Christopher was introducing him to the fans that were still there to congratulate him. But you have to be impressed with what Coach Mack has done, especially because most of those wins, over half of them, have come while Xavier has been a part of the Big East Conference as well. So you got to tip your hat off to Coach Mack.
Yeah, he showed up as a head coach for the first time in 2009, moved over from the second chair to the first chair, and that can be a difficult transition. And then, boom, they joined the Big East, and he has sort of marshaled that step up in competition. The recruiting's been great. The staff continuity, he's got the same group of support people around him. I think he realizes that it's important to have people you trust when you delegate. And the NCAA success, 7 NCAA bids, a 10-7 overall NCAA record, 2 Sweet 16s, an Elite 8, and who knows, this year, the potential to maybe take the next step. I mean, there's not much to criticize. And his ability as far as being a tactician in games as really, like that East Tennessee State game when he took he had his guys take those fouls late and he used all his timeouts to maneuver the victory over East Tennessee State. I mean, there are very few flaws in his overall package.
He's had a dream career pretty much to this point. Probably the only thing missing right now is a Big East championship and that road to the Final Four, which we all expect the Xavier Musketeers to get there at some point. But he's been unbelievable. He's had postseason success. He's had big-time recruiting classes. And probably the best part about Chris is his ability to be flexible, adaptable, make in-game decisions. Coach Mack, definitely one of the top coaches in all of college basketball.
You know, I warned Tennessee to stay away from him a few years ago. I warned the Cal Golden Bears, or whatever they are, to stay away. Right now, I'm going on record. I'm warning the Louisville Cardinal people, stay out.
There's some rumblings, Andy. We're hearing some rumblings. I'm hearing some. I got a little bit of chatter going on. I mean, Greg and Nick, they talk to me all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're very tied in with the Louisville community. They really are.
You guys are part of the problem. You are part of the problem,
Andy.
here.
Andy,
Just
can you
sitting over here?
Andy, do you think you can turn down $8 million a year check, $6 million a year check?
Well,
Are you going to turn that down?
You better make sure that Louisville has the money in the bank now.
Yeah.
They've got.
they do.
They're going to
Patino has a layaway stash.
Rick-
He's still siphoning in money to Louisville.
Louisville has no university president. They have an acting athletic director. They have pending NCAA
But they had
sanctions
all that
dating
Adidas
back
money.
to
This is
2012.
this is all the more reason to go, because you can be the guy to deliver them from the depths. You can come in as a savior, and you go into Louisville. Now you're making $6.57 million a year, and you can turn around this program. You can leave Rick Pitino in the shadows and lead the Louisville Cardinals to glory once again, and you would become the most revered coach in all of Louisville history. I mean, it sounds like a party to me, Andy.
Brad, how are you going to do that without any scholarships, because the NCAA is going to take most of them away, without a path to the NCAA because you're going to be banned for the tournament for 2 years, and also with no place to play because the Yum Center, they've defaulted on their bonds twice. They may close that place up.
Well,
And they'll have to go back to Freedom Hall and play like they did in Denny Crum's
Listen,
days.
here's the thing, though. We're not talking about me going to build this team up, or you or Nick and Greg. We're talking about the Chris Mack, the winningest coach in Xavier history, 203 wins, Sweet 16s, Elite 8 appearances. I mean, a guy that took a team from the Atlantic 10 to the Big East. If there's anybody in the country that can take Louisville back to a place of prominence, it's probably going to be Chris Mack.
You think he's going to want to sit around for 3 years with no chance to go to the tournament and maybe
And
not
pad
be,
his bank account,
maybe,
though?
Maybe
Maybe,
not
I don't
being
know.
on TV.
Does he
I
have
mean,
kids?
hey,
How many kids
I
does
might
Chris
take
have?
that out to Kentucky, but I'll go home to my nice mansion house.
He
And,
does
you know.
have he does have 3 kids.
Three
He has
kids?
3
He's got
kids.
college to think about. He's
And
got
his-
stuff to pay for.
His wife's family does live in Louisville,
Well.
so you could always go over there and have like a casserole.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I think
I'm sure he's worried about a casserole with making $8 million.
Can the Be Different podcast start a GoFundMe to
Yeah,
maybe
it's
Maybe raise some money
That's what
for
we
Chris
should do.
Mack.
Raise money for Chris to go.
to stay here so we can
Yeah,
equal,
to stay here. Yeah.
We'll start a GoFundMe.
We could do that.
Talk about a drop in the bucket. Hey, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, Chris has done a great job here. Obviously, Xavier has survived other coaches leaving. He may go. Everybody has a price. And if Louisville can gather up $8 million, I'd suggest they put it in a bearer bond in an account where he can check the balance before he goes, because Louisville's got some serious fiscal problems and all sorts of political problems in the state of Kentucky, because the governor cleaned out their board, and there's been some embezzlement issues in their foundation. Who knows what's going to happen? They're a fine school, as witnessed by their rehiring of the great Bobby Petrino to coach football there. Ethical man, whatever. But we'll see what happens. Let's talk basketball.
We'll get back. Okay, Andy, we had some fun with Coach Mack. We also had some fun talking about Xavier. What about any concerns that you have with his team? Was there anything that happened in the St. John's game that bothered you? Anything that, say, you were the coach, that you would try and change, or at least try and make more solid moving forward for Xavier to make this run?
I think defensively this team needs to get better. If you look at their metrics, they're maybe like 76th in the country in defensive efficiency, if you believe in Ken Palm's numbers, and they're now in the top 10 offensively. So I think it would be interesting to see if they could get that defensive efficiency number down in the 30s. It may be difficult in a very good league like the Big East to get the numbers down, but I think they can improve defensively. They really delivered the defense almost for the whole game against Creighton, keeping a team that averages 90 to 70. And they had those spurts against St. John's where they were excellent. It was lockdown, very good defense. And I think Xavier's better in a tournament scenario in the NCAA when those zones that they use are a surprise to the team they haven't played much. In the league, in the Big East, everybody knows the 1-3-1, the 2-3, all those zones are coming. And it's so difficult to make them effective. But if you use them in tournament play, especially on the second game of a 3-day weekend with one off day in between, then the zone against the Florida States, the Marylands, the Arizonas can be very effective. So I got a lot of hope that this team can get better defensively. They did last year, and if Coach Mack can keep the offense humming and get the defense to be a little more consistent, then I think the sky's the limit for this group.
Yeah, I think there's very few concerns offensively. The only concern that you might have is at times point guard play, at turnovers. In that St. John's game in the second half, I thought both Quentin and Scruggs got pretty sloppy with the basketball and allowed St. John's to stay in that game late. Defensively, we talked about Najee Marshall, a huge benefit to Xavier if Najee can continue to kind of become that lockdown guy defensively, because I mean, if he's guarding a guy at 6'1", Najee Marshall is tall, athletic. He's stronger. He's going to be able to eat up those guys on the perimeter, and that's going to help everyone if you're comfortable with him guarding one of the team's best players.
And I think Najee really embraces that defensive stopper role. You got to have the mentality where you like to make great offensive players suffer, and I think Najee enjoys that.
I think he does, absolutely. What's up with them pounding the floor? Who started the pounding the floor? I think of that as like a Duke thing. That was something that Bobby Hurley did back in the day. Now I'm out there and I see Scruggs pound the floor. I got JP. Why is JP pounding the floor? Where did the pounding the floor come from?
You're right.
I'm just not a fan of it.
That's a Duke thing. I don't like that. And Wojo's the one who started that. Steve
Yeah,
Wojciechowski, he won himself a National Defensive Player of the Year award with that pounding the floor. He wasn't that good a player.
Yeah,
He won the award.
I don't know what's going on with the pounding the floor thing. I don't know. I think we need to get rid of
Especially
it.
JP. Defense is not a foreign concept to him, but it can be somewhat problematic.
At times, I can understand those feelings, though. I get that. I understand where that comes from.
You could have been a great defender, but you chose to concentrate 95% of your practice time on the offensive end, and with your abilities.
Well, and that's just part of being young. You know, I wasn't balanced maybe as much as I needed to be, but you know what? At the end of the day, I was a scorer. I love shooting the basketball. I like making that three-point shot, getting everybody excited.
Do you think you should have practiced your Euro step a little bit more?
Well, the inverted Euro step, yes. I thought I was pretty good at like the regular Euro that you may see, but the inverted Euro, I definitely could have performed better, maybe a little bit more gracefully.
Okay.
When I was at the
it's
college
a hard
level.
move. It's a hard move.
We should find the footage of Greg doing the Euro step when you were trying to teach him. It's the greatest thing.
It was pretty
That's
good.
how this all came about.
It was pretty good.
The one wild card with X, as it is with every team in the country, maybe not Duke or Kentucky because they have all those parade or McDonald's All-Americans lined up waiting to play, is a random catastrophic injury. And we saw that happen to Creighton just the other day. I don't know if it's catastrophic, but Martine Crumple, it looked like an innocent play, but he blew out his ACL, and their big guy is gone for the year.
Martine Crumple. We were having some fun talking about Crumple before Xavier beat Creighton at the Cintas Center, but he's a good player. I mean, I feel bad for him, obviously. Tore his ACL. He was averaging double figures in points, almost double digits in rebounds as well, 11 points, over 8 rebounds a game. Really talented player. You hate to see a guy go out with injury. And then also last night, Andy, we talk about road games all the time. That was a big topic of conversation last week. We saw Michigan go to Michigan State, get a big victory, and then Michigan goes to Nebraska and loses by 20. So college basketball is just a crazy game. I don't know how you bet. I don't know how you figure these guys out.
It's unpredictable. What about St. John's? If they had Marcus Levette, that other diminutive, I'm not going to call him little, but diminutive guard,
But you did call
to
him
go
little.
with Shamari Pons and Simon, they would be maybe 3-4, 4-3 in the league instead of 0-7.
Yeah, you add Levette with that core of Clark, Simon, and Pons, and that's a pretty good team. And just adding one more body, and then he's obviously one of your best players. That would have been nice to be able to see him play the rest of the year. And The Musketeers now will go on the road. They will go at Seton Hall, which has not been very kind to the Musketeers.
Ouch.
They are 0-4 so far since joining the Big East, and Seton Hall has a very, very talented team. Andy, what is your perspective? What is your thought process, moving forward on Saturday?
That game is 2:30 Saturday from the Rock in Newark, the Prudential Center. It'll be on Big Fox, Channel 19, WXIX locally. Seton Hall, actually, Coach Willard is a strange dude. He's a very good coach, but they got pummeled at Creighton the other night, 80-63. He closed things down. He pulled the chute and ran up the white flag early in the game. Desi Rodriguez played 6 minutes, didn't have foul trouble, sat at the end of the bench for 34 minutes in that game. And after the game, Coach Willard said, Desi's been fatigued. He's played great. I wanted to save him for Xavier. Delgado played 20 minutes, 4 points, 4 rebounds. Angel Delgado, the active leading rebounder in the NCAA, number 2 all-time in the Big East, sat the bench. So Willard, Mac would never do this. Kevin Willard pulled the chute at Creighton. He saw them get off to a 20-4 lead, and he saved he played his bench guys. I mean, that is unprecedented, I think.
Who do you think the best matchup for Delgado is for Xavier?
Tyreek Jones.
You think it's
has to bang on him, and then when Tyreek gets tired, you bring in the next guy, Sean O'Mara, and then somehow you got to get Cantor on the floor. It's
going to be a party down there.
Oh, yeah. It's
going
to be a lot of big guys.
Yeah.
Cantor might be able to get
real sweaty.
He might be able to get Delgado Cantor with all those little bumper pool moves he makes and those flips and what. He could get Delgado, who likes to block shots, into foul trouble.
Okay.
So I want to ask you, I have an idea where you're going to go. Would you give us a prediction on this game, or are you going to pause and just allow yourself to enjoy this one?
Look at the numbers. I mean, the 45-0, the 13-0 as far as the top Big East teams on their home floor. Look at the Xavier history. Every time they go to the Rock in Newark, something bizarre happens. It was a Matt Stainbrook injury one year. It was the Muskies were flying high after upsetting Villanova one year. Last year, I forget what it was, but it was butt ugly down there. I mean, they're 0-4. They haven't even been close to beat this team in Newark. And it's going to be sold out. The game is sold out right now. They're making it the biggest game in the history of New Jersey basketball.
A lot of excitement.
It's bigger than Bill
Huge.
Bradley and the Princeton Tigers back in the 60s.
It's going to be
huge.
huge.
Remember that? It's a huge game. And, even Andy Mack might be tempted to pick the Seton Hall Pirates in this
Don't do
one.
it. I'm not going to make you
do it.
Yeah,
I'm not
don't
going to
do
do it.
it. You don't have to give me a prediction.
This is a special Xavier team. They need a signature road win. This would tell the whole league that Villanova game a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia was an aberration of fluke. They're going to beat this Seton Hall team. Kevin Willard did not do the correct thing in pulling all his players out at Creighton. He took a loss and looking to win at home against Xavier. I don't like that. I don't think it's ethical. And, of course, he and Desi Rodriguez have had a love-hate relationship since day one. I mean, Desi gets thrown out of practice every week, and they bicker like the Bickersons on TV. They don't like each other. But
I think with Xavier coming in, they're going to want to win so badly. I think they're going to try and throw that stuff out the side. I'm not going to give a prediction either. I do think it will be extremely challenging for Xavier to go in there and win.
Extremely.
Villanova is number 1 in the Big East, as they always are. They are not playing a Big East team this weekend. They will take on UConn. And then following UConn, you have a bunch of teams with 2 losses. You got Xavier, Creighton, Seton Hall, as well as Providence. Xavier will take on Seton Hall. Creighton will take on Providence. So by at the end of Saturday night, Sunday, you're going to have Villanova with 1 loss, and you're going to have 2 teams with 2 losses, and then you're going to have a few with 3 if Butler can win as well.
And it's all good in the Big East. They're going to get 6, maybe 7 teams in the NCAA, and it would be great to win a Big East championship and win the Big East tournament and all that stuff. But the holy grail is to get into the NCAA and get the best possible seed you can. And all those goals are in line for Xavier. Seton Hall, very good, though. Desi Rodriguez, he can score from every level. Delgado's the best big man in the Big East. Carrington, that lefty guard, is a great penetrator, shoots about 15 free throws a game. Sanhogo, the big defender, is getting more playing time now. They don't have a very deep bench. They play two guys off the bench, Sanhogo and the freshman Miles Cahill. And they don't shoot free throws well. Hey, there it is. There's the life preserver.
There it is, free throws.
Xavier with a lead into the final 4-minute war on Saturday afternoon, and Seton Hall goes to the line and bricks about 3 front ends.
That's what I was hoping Providence would do too, but I think they went 20 for 22.
Yeah, you're right.
So, well, my fingers are crossed. I agree with you.
It's gonna be a great game. It'll be fun to watch. Either way, it will be entertaining. I will be in front of the TV watching. If you're watching the game, I'll be doing the post game here on Fox. So I will be there right after the game. You're going to get to see this beautiful, beautiful face right after the game.
Do they put makeup on you?
No, there's no makeup.
No makeup?
You just go on.
They're like we can't fix this.
I asked them if they could put some powder on, just like a little bit of brown tanning powder.
Y'all got some powder.
They said that was not possible the last time. So.
Brad, you don't need that. You have that peaches and cream Northern Michigan complexion.
Peaches and cream. Are you hitting on him?
For eating all those apples. You've eaten apples daily forever, and it shows well.
Thank you.
You don't need that.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Well, that was fun. That was fun,
I
Andy.
wish I were going to be in town. I could watch that post game.
I know, and you'll be out of town for the game when the Muskies play Marquette on Wednesday. Those two guards that I know you love so much, Foster and Rousey. But the Musketeers, they have a big challenge ahead of them on Saturday afternoon at Seton Hall. Andy Mack says the Musketeers are going to win. Everybody else on the outside says that's not going to happen. But we will see, because the game is going to happen barring anything catastrophic.
Mark it down, 78-76. Xavier in a huge upset and a break with history. The first road win in the Big East against one of those top elite teams. And this team is special, and they will do it.
And Andy, wrapping it up like
Maybe.
nobody else can. That is Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack. We are back, Be Different podcast. I've been trying to get started early, but Greg Wichard, for whatever reason, whenever I try to get started, has something he has to say. So, Greg, thank you for allowing us to finally start.
You're full of shit.
Because we have lacing up with Leonard. We are lacing it up all the way with Leonard, and instead of Wednesday, we are shooting this on a Friday morning. There were some scheduling conflicts, and I'm looking for we have a bunch of guests coming in the next few weeks, as long as Greg allows.
I love how it's scheduling conflicts and like mishaps when it's your shit, but like we're all of a sudden, Greg says, "Hey, we should start rolling," and then it's his fault.
I think Brad would have talked about websites for another 30 minutes if we hadn't interrupted.
I'm a big website guy. I always have been.
Websites almost done?
Leonard Stokes. Sorry, we got taken to another place, but it's great to see you.
Always a pleasure. We're all good.
That hoodie's great.
Yeah, where'd you get that shirt?
Can you disclose where you got that?
I mean, I don't blame you if you hide it. Is it H&M? Hopefully it's not H&M.
No, it's not definitely not H&M. It's not H&M.
Let's just disclose. Well, it was from H&M, but it's not from H&M anymore.
It's not from H&M anymore. As of last week, it's not from H&M.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, that was good.
Your Bearcats, Leonard, they're doing okay.
Yeah, we got off to a couple slow starts in a couple of the games, but I mean we bounced back, had great second halves, and we were able to pull them out.
So they are right now first in the American, and they're all alone at that top spot because Wichita State, they lost at home to SMU actually quite convincingly.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati blew out SMU at home by 20. Now I got to talk to you about the first half of the UCF game because it was rough. It was rough. So the final score ended up being 49-38. The football score was UCF 51, UC 23. So close parallels right there. almost about the same score, but in the basketball phase, Cincinnati, they did win the game. But just 15 points in the first half. For the game, UC 19 of 53 from the field. UCF was worse from the field. They were 15 of 50 from the field. UCF didn't have a player score more than 7 points in the entirety of that game.
I mean, it's defense. I told you we're gonna play defense this year. we locked the guys down. Great defense by our guys, and I think first half I think we had more turnovers than field goals.
Man,
The first half was one of the ugliest things I've ever watched in my life. It was really bad. The only thing I could tell was that Taco Fall is still huge.
I mean, Taco Fall is gigantic.
Yeah.
What is that guy?
7'6".
7'6"?
He's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah,
I was at the
7'6".
game at Fifth Third last year. I mean, the largest, tallest person that I have ever seen him. I mean, he is. Were you at the game last year to see how tall this man was?
I was, and the thing is, I'm pretty tall, and when I stand next to some of the guys, Kyle Washington, some of those guys are taller than me, and that guy makes those guys look short.
I mean, he's a foot taller than those guys.
Yeah.
Legit a foot tall.
I mean, it's
Does he get time in the NBA? Does he get he'll get an opportunity. He's got such amazing size, and I was impressed with him. He's more mobile than what I thought he would be.
Yeah, he's mobile, but I think he's gonna just at that height with the way the game's played now. I think he's going to be put in a lot of pick and roll situations, and that's going to be extremely tough for him.
UCF hides him a little bit down in the lane.
Down in the lane. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Oh, is that Greg?
Yeah, he's got a great field goal percentage. I mean, he shoots like
yeah, because he doesn't shoot any. What do you mean? He just drops it in the bucket, Greg.
The guy's 7'6". I don't even think he has to jump to.
He does. He just like drops it.
He does it.
Hey, 77%, that's pretty good. I'd say.
Shooting 77% from the floor.
You were looking at 77% on your computer now, and it looks like the number is like eating up your face. You have this weird grin, like you're so happy to see it. It's so weird.
That's like I was okay with that. That if I got that on a test in college, I'm like, sweet.
77.
All right.
Some guys don't even shoot 77 from the free throw line.
Brad did not like the 77 test score. Is that not how you felt?
I don't know.
How'd you do academically in college, Brad? Did you do well?
In college or in high school?
In college.
This is the same guy that said that he couldn't screw the light.
Right.
I learned, but I overcame that. I overcame that difficulty, that challenge that I had. But as far as school, I mean, I was up and down. I was up and down.
Well, you guys are D1 athletes, right? Someone does your homework for you, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
That's what happens at Xavier. I don't know what happens at UC.
At UC, well, I was the first academic All-American we had on the men's basketball team, and I graduated in 3 years.
And
so
the last.
Damn it.
That's my accomplishment.
Congratulations, Leonard.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Round of applause. I appreciate
Hand
it.
clap.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
good. That's really good.
But, I mean, I left UC and I knew how to screw the light bulb in. So
That's good. That's good.
I'm gonna guess that you probably knew how to screw in a light bulb before you went to UC.
Yeah.
Oh, really? You did? Wow.
I did, man.
Where'd you learn that? Was there wasn't YouTube back then, was there, Leonard?
Definitely wasn't, man. Growing up in inner city, man, you had the 40-watt light bulb. Those light bulbs blew out a lot, man. So you had to,
That's why in my house I have all LED lights, so I never have to screw on a light bulb. They just stay on forever.
I'm in that same boat. You can't. I mean, changing the light bulb. Could you imagine if someone today, like, oh man, I had to change the light bulb? You're like, what? You don't have LED? I mean, that's just the world we live in right now.
Yeah, what are you, poor? What do you mean?
I'm a macro thinker. That's the problem. You know, I'm more of a macro guy, and it gets a little bit challenging at times.
Yeah, I always tell my friends I'm really good at writing a rough draft. You know, not the final paper, tough for me, but the rough draft,
Really good. Really strong.
strong rough
Real
draft.
strong rough draft. Should we get back to UC
Yeah, we can get
basketball?
back
Let's
to
go at it. So the UCF game, although it was a struggle offensively for both teams for the majority of that basketball game, a bright spot, Gary Clark, once again, 17 points, 14 rebounds, and his interview after the game, post-game, I thought was fantastic. I mean, really good leader for this team. But Gary Clark, he's continuing to play at a high level.
Yeah, Gary's solid. I mean, he's a guy who you know what you're gonna get from him night in and night out. Very consistent, very tough, very hard nosed. I mean, he's and overall just a good kid, man. I mean, he's a great kid, and he's been that way consistently for the program. I mean, he's one of those guys that you'll look back in years to come, and you'll say, man, he was a pleasure to watch on and off the court. I mean, he's a good kid. And I've enjoyed watching him grow up.
I've never heard anybody say one thing negative about Gary Clark on or off the air. I think that says a lot about him as a person, considering he's been here for 4 years as well. So Gary Clark, once again, he's going to be the guy that if UC is going to go where they want to go, he has to continue to be Mr. Consistent like he has been. So Cincinnati's resume starting to round out. They're still in the top 15. They have big wins, right? We got Buffalo at UCLA, Mississippi State, the SMU win by 20. They'll get some chances with Wichita State. Now, my issues with this team right now is their bench production. When you look at Nasir Brooks and Trey Scott, just 3 points, 3 rebounds per game is what they've been averaging. Trevor Moore has just 3 threes in conference, and Keith Williams is kind of struggling all across the board. That bench, where are they going to get more bench production from? Because one of those guys has to step up and give them more. I mean, which one do you think will be able to step up for the Bearcats?
I mean, it's got to be by committee. I mean, all those guys that you named have to contribute a little more, especially Nas and Trey. I mean, I thought coming into the season, Nas looked really good preseason, had a great summer. I was expecting a little more out of him.
What do you think that is? Is that confidence? What is it?
I think it's a confidence thing. I think he's just got to play. I think he gets out there, he catches the ball. He doesn't look to really score. He looks to pass more than pass first and score. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a big kid. I think, coming in, man, I saw him this summer. I saw him preseason. I said, man, I think this guy's got a shot. But I mean, he's got to continue to get better. Trey the same way. Trey's a high energy guy. Comes in off the bench. He's got to give more production. The 2 freshman guys are freshmen, so you just kind of expect that from them. I think Trevor will step up a little more as conference play goes on, and I think he'll make some shots. Keith, it'll be a little tougher for him off the bounce, especially when you get in conference play. I mean, guys know your tendencies. They have time to study, but I mean, by committee, I think those guys have to do a better job if we're going to make a push in the tournament. I think the one good thing that we do have, and ironically, I spoke with Coach Huggs yesterday for a while, and we talked about his 2 losses back-to-back that they had. I mean, they're in an extremely tough conference in the Big 12, and those guys are going to all beat up on each other. It's the same thing with the Big East. So I think if we can continue to not beat ourselves in our conference, I think we'll kind of fly under the radar and kind of continue to climb.
Oh, I think so for sure. I think the only losses that it's really accepted, that's okay, is Wichita State.
Correct.
Right? You're allowed to lose them. That's okay.
Yeah.
No one's going to beat you up. Anyone else, you guys should beat.
Yeah, but I mean, that goes back to our bench production on the road. I mean, we're going to have some games where we're tested on the road, and, we've just got to persevere and push through. But that those 4 guys that Brad named have to, those guys have to step up if we're going to make a push in the tournament, I think.
Well, because you got the great nucleus, right? You got the 4 guys that are all in double figures. If Cumberland to me is the guy. If he's scoring 15 points in a game, that's a great night for UC. It's when Cumberland struggles a little bit, and one out of those 4 guys struggles against a really good team, they're going to have some challenges. That's where they need that bench production to really step up. But between Washington and Clark, the bigs, they're both fantastic. And then you have Evans and Cumberland on the perimeter. You need those other guys to start playing. Kane Brum, Justin Jennifer, they're continuing to go back and forth. Justin Jennifer against UCF, he had 0 points, 1 assist. Kane Brum, he's averaging his last couple games under 5 a game, not passing the ball that well either. And now he's coming back from an ankle injury. But the biggest question for UC, I think, especially when you look at them offensively, is outside of that nucleus of 4, who's going to be able to step up in a big moment against Wichita State or moving forward in the tournament? Is Trevor Moore going to hit 3 threes in a game that takes him over the top? Is Nasir Brooks going to have a game he has 10 points, 7 rebounds in a big moment? You know what you're going to get out of those 4, but those guys that aren't talked about in the locker room from that opposing coach, and they're going to have opportunities because they're not as focused on when they come into the game, they have to take advantage of that moving forward.
Yeah, I think if we can get 10 to 18 points of production from our bench guys, I think that helps us out tremendously.
That's perfect. You get 20 points, 10 rebounds out of that bench. I mean, that makes UC a much scarier team than what they already are. And if they can get a little bit better offensive tempo, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. I'm not concerned at all with the Bearcats. I think they're in a great position moving forward.
I've got a 2-part question for Leonard.
Go ahead, Greg.
Part 1, Leonard. What does this name mean to you? Diego Guevara.
Diego Guevara. I mean, that guy was
Charlotte 49ers.
I definitely know the name. I mean, I was a freshman when he was there, so I just remember. So I was a UC fan before I actually got there, so I remember this guy blowing kisses to his wife.
That's what I was. That was the most annoying thing in the world. I remember watching UC games back in the day, and every time he'd hit a 3, he'd blow a kiss to his girlfriend.
You're looking like that. What's wrong with this guy? But I mean, this guy, his girlfriend was actually on the road when they played us. I mean, he's blowing kisses to him.
Number 2. Was there anybody that you played against that? Was there one player that just always got the best of you?
No one really got. Well, actually, one person got the best of me, and that was DeJuan Wagner.
Really?
DeJuan Wagner had 27 points, and that was
Just in your face.
I mean, the thing about him was he was so explosive, and he shot the ball every time. I mean, it was just tough to. He was just tough.
Did he
tough
play
to
for
guard.
Memphis?
Play for Memphis. I mean,
Okay.
K scored 100 points in a high school game.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, Camden, New Jersey. I mean, he was.
Is this the ball style though? Did he shoot 200 times, or how's it work?
I mean, he was that good. I mean, he was really. I mean, Cavaliers drafted him. I mean, I don't know. I think he may have went first or second in the draft. I mean, he was that good. But I mean, he was just tough to guard. He was 6'2", extremely quick first step. But I mean, he had the ultimate green light. And guys who can just shoot the ball at any given time with the most supreme confidence, I mean, they're tough to stop. But other than him, no one really scored in that. You know, guys would get 17, 16. I mean, even Dwayne Wade never went off on us for that much. But he was a guy who was the same size, my size.
He went off
could
against
kinda match
Kentucky.
up.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, triple-double, I think, right?
God, I've never been so demoralized in my life.
It's all right.
Yeah, so but I mean, he was that guy. But I mean, we had some battles. I mean, we played the UCLA game. Jason Capono, Matt Barnes. I mean, Jason Capono, I held scoreless in regulation in that UCLA game. Everyone talks about my 39, 10 and 5 or whatever, and I'm like, the defensive end, I held this guy. First team.
Yeah, well, Leonard, see,
All-American.
no one cares about defense. You know, I've always had the offensive mindset. You know, no one watches defense. That's not how I got the girls in the crowd excited.
Yeah.
All right, it was by hitting a deep 3 ball. All
You
right?
playing for Huggins. You playing for Hugs. Defense matters, man. So you got to. So I mean, I held the guy. I'm like, man, I'm on this end, giving him all on the other end. But I mean, that was just how we were wired. But to answer the question, it was definitely
Wagner.
DeJuan Wagner.
See, that's why I always liked Adam Morrison. That was his thing. That was his statement. Playing good defense means scoring more points than the guy you're guarding. It was great.
Yeah, during the minutes that you're in. So say you play 20 minutes, some guy plays 30 minutes, he has 30, you have 20, but he only scored 18 in the 20 minutes you had, you plus 2. If everybody else did that, you'd win by 16,
Can
18 points.
Greg, can you look up on that fancy computer where Adam Morrison is right now?
Adam Morrison.
Where is Adam Morrison?
He was
Starbucks.
Where is-
Starbucks in Seattle right now.
He's starting a podcast about
Actually,
Gonzaga.
I saw him on Columbia Parkway.
Damn.
He was cooking me up a caramel macchiato.
Man.
Last team he played for was the Clippers in 2009.
Isn't he
2010.
I thought I saw him on the bench for Gonzaga.
He used to
recently.
play for the Lakers, and I just remember
How good he
I
was?
big. Yeah, well, in the summer league, crush it. You go like 38 and 9, and all these crush it, and then like as soon as the season started, not even. He's just that dude at the end.
Yeah, that's
Good
usually
job.
what happens when Kobe's on
Good
the
job,
team.
Kobe.
You play the same
Good
position.
job, Kobe.
He must have really fell out because I just typed in Adam Morrison and searched it for the past month if any articles have come up, and it brings up a goalie named Adam Morrison. So he has fell off big time.
Do you think that the Mamba ever had a conversation with Adam Morrison about like his lack of like work ethic? I would just love to have seen him and Adam Morrison in the locker room, just the two of them, just having conversation.
What do you think they talked about?
Like I have no idea.
His
Probably about
mustache?
probably about his
The
stash.
stash, definitely the stash.
He
The
cut it.
stash and the haircut.
I
The
think
stash
he.
and
I
the
think he
haircut.
did
Oh,
cut his
man.
hair recently, though.
Did he?
I think he did.
Well, at some point, as I know, we're not at, but sometimes it goes.
I think he
Sometimes
cut his
the
hair
goes.
after he sobbed on the court when he lost in the NCAA
the
tournament.
picture I'm seeing right now is he should be he looks like he should be a Burning Man. Like he is. His hair is down to his
Can
shoulders.
you turn it?
He looks like he's
Can
a
you-
character in Game of Thrones right here.
Is that
We'll
bad?
put it- oh, it looks like he.
Is this a recent picture?
Yeah, this is posted recently, and it's like it says Adam Morrison signs deal with
looks
Portland
bad.
Trailblazers.
He looks bad. Looks bad. We'll put the picture up so all
You
you
guys
can see.
are hysterical.
Yeah, I guess it. 1-year deal for league minimum.
What was that? When was that?
It said this is recently. It said for Portland.
See, he's still in the league.
Wow.
He still got it. He still got it.
It's like Ryan Leaf returning to quarterback the Detroit Lions.
Well,
Leaf
Ryan Leaf had some. He had some other issues.
I mean, you know, he's like he's a mentor and an advocate now. He actually looks out for other people.
His
heard
his
a
letter
recent
was
interview.
incredible. Did you read that?
Yeah, I didn't read it.
That makes a lot of sense.
I did hear about it though. I mean, every time we do Lacing Up with Leonard, at least the last 2 times, we get way off.
We
the
just need to
UC
start
topic.
sitting on the leather couches instead of this.
Man,
Like,
you got to give the world what they want.
Yeah, we need to lace up with Leonard on the leather. We might need to do leather couches next time. I think that's what we might do. Make it a little bit more comfortable. Maybe put our feet up on the ottoman.
Leonard, can you play the drums?
We got a drum set.
We got
right
a drum
there.
set over there now, so we got a lot of options in this building.
Who's the most famous? I got a question
Where
for
are
you.
you
Go all the
going?
way off topic, then we'll get back to basketball.
No,
You just asked if I
I
could
think
play
we're
the
pretty
drums.
much going to wrap up after this.
Who is the most famous African American drummer ever?
Most famous?
I like
The Roots?
somebody on the Black Keys, maybe.
I'm
don't
going
know.
to go with Max Roach.
Is that what Google tells
Did
you?
you just Google that in?
Yeah, he was born in 1927.
What did you type into Google?
Well, now
Black
that's
drummer.
yeah. I said most famous black drummer.
Man, I'm gonna give you this H&M hoodie.
Can't tell me to. You can't
This
ask
is
me a
taking an
question.
awful turn.
So to answer your question,
Sorry, go ahead.
hell no.
Yeah, we still want the answer.
I cannot play the drums at all. Nothing.
So is Max Roach the most famous?
I
That's
don't know who Max.
Or was
Roach
I
is.
correct?
I gotta look up.
Prince
It
is-
was the Roots. What's his name though? The Roots, the drummer.
Oh, he's awesome. With,
yeah, he's really good.
yeah.
He's on Jimmy Fallon show all the time. I can't think of his name.
Is it Questlove? No. Questlove?
Is Questlove the drummer?
Questlove. Yeah.
Yeah. Prince is number 4.
Did Prince play the drums?
According to Google.
Apparently, Prince played everything.
Prince played
He
every
could
instrument.
everything.
Prince had a lot of talents.
yeah. Ping pong was one of them. Apparently, he was awesome at ping pong.
All right, take it easy.
Prince was
Jeez,
the,
man.
Prince was, the,
Gosh.
Prince was the Greek freak of music. He played every instrument. Like the Greek freak plays every position. That guy's
That's a
pretty
good
talented.
comparison. I would love to, if anyone compared me to Prince ever, I'd be stoked.
Really?
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
I mean, do you try to embody Prince? On a
Really?
It's like,
I'm just
dude,
saying,
like-
if someone ever said that you what you do for a living, you are the Prince of, I would be flattered.
Give him
God,
plays.
all right.
Give him plays
I
Purple
just-
Rain in the shower every day.
You're just like the last person that I would think would want to be compared to Prince.
He's an icon
like-
and a legend. What are you talking
You
about?
could be a bank robber, which is what Greg is dressed like. Right
It's much.
and then we got Prince in the bank.
It's much more. It's much more lucrative than podcasts.
God. You guys look like the burglars in Home Alone right now.
The younger version.
Yeah.
I hope.
You guys look like Harry and Marv.
Fuck the wet bandits.
Yeah.
All right, we need to stop this.
All right, we need to. Leonard, do you have another question for us before we get out of here?
Just, go Bearcats. My Cats are number 1 in the conference right now.
Number 1.
Who do we got
Number
next?
1.
Who's next?
They play East
Saturday,
Carolina.
East Carolina.
8-10, 2-5 in the American at 4:00 at BB&T Arena.
It's gonna be a tough one.
Easy.
That's his one.
Easy there,
I was
Marv.
gonna say,
he does that every.
when
Leonard,
you're not
don't let
here-
him do that.
when
He
you're not
always-
here-
Hey, man,
he
my-
does this, and I don't know what to say because I'm like, why are you doing that?
Every single time.
And he just
every
looks
time.
at me with that awkward smile, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
My Cats are winning. You get hate, man. You know how it goes.
I mean, hate mail comes all the time.
It is funny though. He always has like 1 or 2 digs.
You
unless
always
you're here.
dig, like,
and then
real
if he's
quick
here,
dig.
I think
I
it's a
just-
sign of respect
It is.
or
It's me.
or fear.
It's a
The
big-
guy's not fearing anyone with that outfit on. Man. I'm telling you, guys got to bring truck. He's got to bring truck. He's got to go.
That's just because Greg has no conscience at all.
I have a great conscience.
Conscienceless.
gotta bring Struck. He's gotta go get.
Guys, that was it. Lacing up with Leonard. Next time we're going to have to take it to the couches. But that was fantastic. Leonard, we appreciate all of your insight. Greg and Nick.
Stay tuned.
that's-
For,
yeah,
stay
stay-
tuned for the website and stay tuned for. We got some pretty cool guests coming on next.
We got
couple
some
weeks.
great guests coming on. We will disclose some next week. I'm not going to disclose this week yet. But we have a handful that will be on. Some will be via phone. Some will be in person. But we're looking forward to bringing on a lot of people for our unplugged interview series. So we'll bring it back next week. That is for Brad Redford, Leonard Stokes, Greg Wichard, and Nick Given.
Maybe I'll play the drums next week.
We'll
There
play
you
the
go.
drums. We'll get Leonard on the podcast. That's Lacing It Up with Leonard.
Thanks, Leonard.